talk about a lot on the show is that, 75 years ago, psychopharmacology and the development of psychiatry and the behavioral health in general was very limited.
Right.
In past 75 years, there's been an incredible change in what we know about the brain, and what we know about the mind, what we know about the science of addiction. So we're in a different time where it's not, the stigma doesn't necessarily have to be there. The abilities and difference to identify underlying psychiatric illnesses, like as simple as depression and anxiety, they can lead to self-medicating through alcohol and drugs. We're in a whole different era. And one of the things that I've always noticed with the last version of the Big Book is that the doctor's opinion hasn't been updated in a long time.
But because I don't believe, but I don't believe that the doctor's opinion is necessarily in there for the purposes of psychiatric help. I believe the reason the doctor's opinion was to take away the stigma.
I love the doctor's
It's one of
opinion.
my. I was reading it the other day. It's one of my favorite.
It's what sold me almost on.
I agree.
On not sold me, but made me understand that I have a different mind. Right. Just by this doctor and him saying that this is the only thing that he's seen.
Right.
Work.
That's what I think the amazing thing about that story isn't him giving a philosophy on mental health.
Right. But once again, this is to my point.
Right.
Right. That this is your mind and it's the only way it works. And we know that 90 million Americans are abusing drugs or alcohol.
Right? And around the world.
Just abusing and not necessarily are alcoholic. We know that depression and anxiety affects annually 51% of the population. Right. So we have, really a pandemic of mental illness occurring at all sorts of levels, which now is highly treatable, while years ago it wasn't.
Right. They tried treating it. I mean, Bill Wilson used LSD to try to treat his depression. I mean,
that might have been one of the reasons.
At the time they thought, LSD was, it might have been they're using it right now to help treat people. Basically, we were talking about this before.
MDMA.
Right.
Oh, ecstasy.
For heroin, the Ibogaine.
Oh, well, Ibogaine. In Mexico.
In Mexico, they're giving
using hallucinogens to
detox people with a shaman.
From amphetamine, from narcotics. I'm sorry.
And we're in the studio tonight with the lovely and talented comedic styles of Amber Tozer,
who throws out words,
and I could just
for you to go on tangential.
Go with it.
Amber, word.
Train.
It's a great band. Drops of Jupiter.
Excellent.
And I've been a Train fan actually for a really long time. It's an amazing skill I have.
This is something I didn't know you possessed. Actually, a talent.
Yeah,
that's
you
a
could.
skill I have.
This is improv radio.
Oh, when you listen to 93.1, you know how they do like the montage of
What's
little songs.
93.1 What is that?
It's a radio station.
Is that the greatest? Is that like the?
It's a competitor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that the? Is that the 80s, 90s, and today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that
But they do a
station.
montage. They'll do like Van Halen and then
Right.
and I always know every band. And I'm like, how can I make money off
It's actually a new segment on the show we're doing.
Yeah, let's do that.
You can't make money off it other than Judah paying you to have the discussion.
All right, I'm in.
You're in.
And we're also in the studio with.
And you have to do it on a scooter while he smokes.
Right, just see how much I
stop.
could do on the scooter. And we're in the studio tonight with great author, writer, contributor to Playboy magazine, Suzy Mccoppin.
Yeah, so Suzy, tell us a little bit more about yourself and like what you're writing and tell us like about it, what you do.
What is it that I do? Well, as I mentioned, I wrote a sex column.
Right.
And
Very hands-on, obviously.
Clearly. And then that morphed into kind of like the party girl, which is like I make kind of like video vignettes, and then I travel around the country and host parties.
So how does like being sober affect that? I mean, that's obviously you're in sort of the lair.
Yeah, it's just a big fake out.
Yeah?
Total fake out. Yeah.
And so you like
She drinks a lot of water.
A lot of water,
And
yeah.
gets on her knees.
Make it look like vodka?
when people are when people are in ecstasy, right? Don't they
look
crouch on the
at Judah
floor?
trying to save himself. Judah, there is no redemption.
Yeah, from being on your knees.
No,
And he moves an inch closer.
I was in a club when I got sober. I was thirsty and my knees were hurting, so I remember crouching down on the floor and drinking water. 2 minutes later, like somebody who comes over, you got any E? I was like, No, I don't have any E. You know, and I remember
because of the covert.
Yeah, and I was drinking a lot of
operation.
water, and I was down.
Okay,
It was like my spinal column thing, or whatever it was. Okay,
All right,
so
Amber, another word.
Flugelbinder. What movie is that from?
Oh.
you got me on that one.
this is a
Cocktail.
stumper.
Cocktail. Oh, I should have known that.
What does that mean?
I can name the song from Cocktail, but I can't.
What, the Beach Boys song?
Wasn't there another
Yeah.
song when he was flipping the bottles in the bar?
I'm sure. Oh yeah, the Boogie Woogie. It was the Beatles.
Wait, I want to hear how you handle the parties.
Yes.
Like how you're always.
Oh well, this is funny. I had to go to Singapore recently to host a party for the Formula One races.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize they were really vague about my duties. I love saying duties. So when I got there,
I'll tell you the Freudian explanation of that in a few
Oh
minutes.
please! I already know the origination of crap.
Thank you, Andrew, for that.
You're welcome.
So I got there. I'm at the party. I'm like, "Do you want me on the mic? I mean, do you want me to be weird?" And they were just, "Don't worry, don't worry, don't." And then it eventually becomes very clear that my job is to drink. Like I am supposed to drink with all these people and
Wow.
just drink all night and drink. And they gave me my own bottle of vodka, my own table, just everything.
Wow.
So and they're like toasting and just watching me, right? Watching
Right.
me. So what I did all night was just drink, spit it out, drink, spit it out, drink, spit it out. And I gave myself
That's
AIDS.
tough.
I wasn't going to say anything else about that.
You put it in. You put a drink in your mouth.
Oh yeah, am I out?
No.
Well, I have five months. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's tough. My big thing
Would
is
you ever feel comfortable being like, can you fill this up with water? Like find somebody cool?
No, I could do that. I mean, I only had to put it
Suzy,
in my
actually, aren't you sad?
Right.
You're like unhappy you asked that question. How do you deal with parties? Suzy's answer, not very well.
mouth. Not very well.
No, I'm curious.
I'm drunk right
to be
now.
Like,
I have to go there, didn't you, Amy? Okay, what?
I think if it was just in my mouth, I would just like.
Oh, just cut it right there. That's all we need. That's all we need.
End
That's fine.
scene.
And here we go.
Yeah.
Go to
The number here is 8778-830-830. The number here is 8778-830-830. We're in the studio with Amber Tozer and Suzy Mccoppin. And you're listening
Who
to
has recently
Clean
been disqualified.
Radio. We'll be back in a few.
Oh, no.
Jude is coming in from his smoking addiction, doing his goofy dance once again. It's really, I think anybody that actually watches us is just gonna.
I'm just gonna say this because I think the topic tonight has been a lot of. Yeah, because I got high. Sing it, Afro Man. Yeah.
You gotta have the chicken in there, right?
Yeah. But I think one of the most important things is I couldn't have done that before I stopped drinking. And I know that might sound corny, but I was this like scared little 22-year-old kid.
Couldn't have done what? Sorry.
I couldn't have walked in just dancing.
Oh.
Couldn't have walked in
That
just
sweet
like
move
just
you
being
just did?
free.
Could we just go back to that?
Yeah, I know that was like the Elaine dance from Seinfeld.
But Elaine was
Found the
free.
answer to our
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Give Jude a beer.
I do think of those like moments. I think of those moments when I was drinking and I either hungover or obsessing about the drink where I could not. I was just like doing the minimum of what I could do to get through that moment. But yeah, for you to like walk in and be a goofball
Yeah.
and to have that freedom and to sort of.
I don't
know
care.
what you mean. I think about that all the time. Being like, wow, I can't believe I just walked in the room and said stuff
Yeah, it's called being.
without a drink.
Right, I actually functioned today.
Yeah.
It's one of the most freeing feelings, and I'm sure everybody here, maybe not you, will be able to, just because you had a lot more. I was scared of the mail when I was drinking.
Yeah.
I had a year's supply of envelopes, and one of the scariest things I ever encountered in sobriety. This is years later. I'm walking down the street with a friend of mine named Ben and this woman, and she's telling this really sad story that she lost her kid. And the whole reason was because she didn't open up the mail.
Wow.
So she missed the court dates.
Actually, I'm gonna
Wow.
say something about my wife. When I met her, she was just newly sober, and I went over to her place, and there was this giant cabinet and I opened it up, and it was just all an open mail, right?
Yeah, because we believe as alcoholics that if we don't open the mail, it never came.
Right? Yeah, right.
Right.
Like,
It'll go away.
right, like if we don't go to the doctor, we're not sick. And I found out that if you don't go to the dentist, you might get sober with 18 cavities. And the reason I always talk about this stuff is because I think when you get sober, or the alcoholic minds think they're the only ones that think like this. And the thing is, you're not. They're not. Well, these are all things that we go through.
Well, I mean, a big part of alcoholism or drinking or drug abuse is the escapist element. So certainly, if you're engaging in behavior that allows you to escape, the mail is certainly one thing you're going to avoid and escape from. All you got to do is get it into a drawer occasionally.
And the worst was
once a month, right?
Also, answering machines were the worst too. Answering machines when you just wanted to turn your phone off, but the old school answering machines that you actually heard the beep.
The one you still use?
Yes. Yeah, right. I still have I'm still on 8 tracks.
It's in the 80s. I mean,
that's why I love the Killers. And because they're
but
so
they came
80s.
out in the.
But they're very
They're a
80s.
throwback, yeah.
They're a throwback,
band,
you know.
yeah.
And but I think that's so important that people talk about this stuff and joke about this stuff, because I used to be embarrassed about it. I really was. Well,
there is a fear. I mean, people that get newly sober often running from the fear of their taxes, fear of the mail, what might be in the mail, fear of things catching up with them,
Right.
mistakes they've made, tickets.
But here's the thing: they're not going to get better by not opening the mail.
Right. Well, it's the saying: face everything and recover.
Right.
Fear.
And we were when I was in your treatment center last week. I'm not gonna, with one of your clients, and one of your clients was like, had been escaping for a little bit, missing, and he was scared to call his manager.
He was avoiding things.
He was avoiding things, and I said, let's call him right now.
Right.
And he was so scared that they were going to be like, you stink, or I hate you, I never want to manage you again, and so me and his therapist, what's the therapist's name? The younger guy, Steve. I can never remember his name. David. And we sat at a table with him, and we, he got his phone out of lockup, and we called his manager, and his manager was like on the phone with him. They're both crying. She's so happy that he's getting sober and getting help for himself.
Aww.
And afterwards, he's like, thank you so much. And the only reason I was able to tell him to do that was because people in the program have done that for me, and because I've been there.
Right.
And another hallmark moment with Judah.
We haven't gotten our Barbara Walters moment yet.
That was pretty close.
I'm gonna get Barbara. I'm gonna get it out of Judah though.
You'll get a Barbara Walters.
I'm gonna get him crying when.
You want to know when you get me crying when you talk about Field of Dreams?
Kick him in the nuts.
Field of Dreams.
Field of
really?
Dreams always.
I'm
gets
gonna
me.
cry now.
Field of Dreams. Even when I start thinking about it, I get teary-eyed.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I and I always say this, and when I celebrate, when I have it for my birthdays, and I get up there, I always tell this one story. My favorite scene in Field of Dreams is at the end where he's having the catch with his dad. And I think a lot of people, guys especially, when they come into the program, they've had issues with their dad.
Yeah.
And they're having a catch, and he's having a catch with his dad, and his dad goes, "Is this heaven?" And he goes, "No, this is Iowa." And he goes, "What's heaven like?" And Kevin Costner says to his dad, "What's heaven like?" And he goes, "It was heaven like." And he goes, "It's what's Kevin like?" And right. And he goes, he goes, "It's a place where all your dreams come true." And he sees his kid playing on the swing. He sees his wife, and he looks at the baseball field that he crazily built, and he said, "Maybe."
Did you write the screenplay, Judah? Or are we going through the whole thing?
And he goes, "Maybe
And
this
then
is."
what happened?
And maybe this.
Right.
And I'm about to cry. You cut off my Barbara Walters moment, damn you all. And yes, and when I look at my life in that, and somebody said to me, "Is this heaven?" And I look around, and I think we could all identify. Susie's living her dreams. You're living your dreams. I mean, you are. You're married. You've built an amazing place. You're loved by a couple guys, and Amber's. You're living your dreams. You're on the road. You're performing, and I can't think of a better thing to say about 12-step things of what it's about.
Yeah.
Than that.
Well said.
Yeah. And I think you get the tools also to deal with things when they don't work out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I didn't get into NYU, I remember I went to a meeting and I was crying, and this woman Annette put her arm around me and said, "It's going to be all right.
Right, you'll get a scooter one day.
You'll get a scooter one day. You'll be living in the Oaks, known as Sherman Oaks, holla, and you'll be living your dreams." And you know what? I am. We were talking about this last week. We have a lot. We have very simple lives. Both of us do. We both have. We both live in very modestly. You drive a little bit of a nicer car than I do, but nothing.
Well, I drive a car.
Yeah, right. You drive a car, and it's. Listen, nobody ever calls me up and asks me to help them pack or move.
Do you have